Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that. And I'll slow down a little bit, take my time on this introduction, and give them time to at least get a couple of bites in there. So anyway, I do have the distinct honor. My name is Doug Blackwell with IPX 1031 to introduce our guest speakers today. I joined the CCIM group years ago is to be able to rub elbows with people in the room as professionals in our commercial industry. And they know people that I haven't met before that they might introduce to come sit in this room that I get to meet as well. And there's no exception to that today that I get to introduce to you Jesse Miller of Greystar. The bio he gave me to read was, it's a little bit long, so I'm going to have to read a little bit of it. But I did a little bit further deep dive on him to find out some things that say, okay, what makes him qualified to really be speaking to us today?
Hey, Doug.
Yes.
I hope you didn't check my Facebook when you're doing your digging.
Well, you're lucky on that one because our company blocks Facebook on me, so I can't really get up to that one. But I did go everywhere else, and I found some cool stuff. So we'll have fun with it. But don't worry, you can get out of here alive today. But anyway, Jesse is with Greystar. And he's got his cohort, Britt, with him today to be joining up here in the front of the room. But if you don't know who Greystar is, I had a quick conversation with him. What I could find out online, they're growing too. What I saw online, there's 10,000 employees that are employed by Greystar. He quickly corrected me and let me know there's actually 15,000 employees that are employed by Greystar. They're a very large corporation, and they just breached over 500,000 units that they manage. So they've become, if not the largest national owner of units and managers of units. I think he's well qualified to say they own or at least represent the commercial industry pretty well, wouldn't you say? So also to be able to talk about the topic they're here today to talk about with 15,000 employees, I think they kind of they go across all generation types that are in that organization. And to make an organization that big that does that much, operate and function with all that diversity, I'm excited to hear what they have to say. So what Britt makes Jesse special, he is a national award-winning real estate executive with 15 years experience with property management, which encompasses asset management, program development, strategic planning, and administration. He serves as the director of real estate as an integral part of the commercial management sectors. Complementing his impressive career, Mr. Miller is an extremely active volunteer at the National Apartment Association, Multifamily Northwest, and the Institute of Real Estate Management. With a passion for education, which brings him here today, he wants to share. He's also served as speaker within several industry educational events and multiple institutions, including Spectrum, Prism, EdCon, Trends Northwest, the National Apartment Association, Apartmentalize, Portland State University, and the National Association of Home Builders. So with anything else I could say, he's been awarded in 2018 with a National Credential Holder of the Year Award by the National Apartment Association, was featured in 2018 Top 100 magazine, Real Estate Edition, and was inducted into the Forbes Real Estate Council in 2018 as well. But lastly, I think the biggest qualification I found on him on all the places I could seek, he is one of the only certified millennials that I could find anywhere. So with that being said, if you check his LinkedIn, he's got that on there proudly. My son does not brag to be a millennial. He's actually a Z-Gen. He's just behind the millennials. My daughter, however, is a millennial and is proud to say, I am a millennial. So that's an experience that, as a family member, I'm hoping that I can learn today how to help manage my family, but also how to help manage my career. So without further ado, let's go ahead and let Jesse and his partner, Britt, join us with a big warm welcome and a round of applause for our guests.
Okay, well, good afternoon, everybody. Before we jump into this, just to make it interesting, I want to start this off by giving away a door prize. Okay? So, under 6 of your chairs, randomly spread out throughout here, there's actually money taped under your chair. Oh, they're on the table. Okay, I'm sorry. So there's actually money on the table. So if you find the bill, pick it up and raise it. Okay, we got 1. Any other ones? 2, 3. Okay, 4, 5. Okay, 2 more. Do we see 2 more? And this is really important because the fake money leads to real money later on. Okay, 6. Okay, so we lost 1. That's okay. So somebody ate it. So what we're going to do throughout this workshop is I want to make it interactive. I want to make it casual. I want to make it low-key. And if you provide a good answer, you ask a good question, we're going to give you more of those dollar bills. And at the end of it, whoever has the most gets the prize, gets to walk home with the prize, walk away with the prize. Sound good? Now, if you eat the money, between now and then it doesn't count. You can't use money that you've already eaten because there is candy inside of those pouches. So I want to thank you all for inviting me, having me join. I especially want to thank Beth DuPont. She was roped into my class back in April, was it, of this year? And she's like, hey, you got to come over and present with CCIM. So happy to be here. Happy to share this workshop with you. Last year, I launched a program called Confessions of a Millennial Mind. And because of all the talk about millennials and how people are actually forced to work with one another in terms of millennials, there's been a lot of interest in it. I've actually held a lot of millennial-related workshops, generational-relaed workshops throughout multiple states, both in Washington State, Oregon, and then in Denver, and then nationally. And I'll actually be going to the Japan Property Management Association this December to speak in Tokyo, too, about it. So that's pretty neat, that and property management. So today, my goal is not to stand up here and tell you guys you should text message millennials or that Gen Z folks are more sensitive or that baby boomers are loyal, but it's to hopefully get you to hit the reset button so you think a little bit differently about working with those multiple generations within the workplace. Is that fair enough? Okay, cool. So let's get this rolling here. So let's start this off with a generational awareness test. Okay, generational knowledge test. It's multiple choice, okay? Question 1, you guys ready? As of today, how many major generations are working within the industry? Letter A is 4 generations. Option B is 5 generations. Option D, this said C yesterday, was 6 generations. And second D is 3 generations. So how many of you think it's letter A, 4 generations? Raise your hand. Okay. How many of you think it's B? Okay. And how many of you think it's D1? Okay. And D2 is 3 generations. Okay. Answer is 5 generations. Can anybody name which generations those are? We'll give you money. Anybody brave? Okay. Go ahead. Back there. Okay. That's 4, right? 5, yeah. The silent generation. What is the Gen Y? Gen Y and millennial is the same. Yeah. It's okay. It's okay. So you should still get $1. So Brittany, can we give him $1? Okay, cool, awesome. So who can name the 5th one? Probably the most important. Go ahead. What is it? The greatest generation. Traditionalists, right? Greatest generation is the other one. So that's the other generation. So there's currently 5 generations right now currently working in the workplace, which has been the most ever in that sense. So maybe that's probably why you guys are here. Okay, secondly, which year will Gen Z outnumber millennials with regard to the global population? Hopefully I didn't mess the letters up in this one. A is 2021, B is 2024, C is 2019, and D is who really cares? I'll be retired on an island by then anyways. Okay, how many of you say A? 2021. Okay, how many of you say, oh, B? Oh, I gave the answer. It's 2019. So this year, the Gen Z actually surpassed the amount of millennials in terms of population goes throughout the globe. So there's more Gen Z than there are millennials as of today around the globe. Now in the US, that's not true. Gen Z only makes up about 30% of millennials that are actually actively in the workforce. But worldwide population, there's a lot more Gen Z coming up than all the other generations. Okay, last pre-quiz question. Within the United States, which percentage of Gen X uses Facebook as of 2019? Clearly Doug does, right? A is 67%, B is 73%, C is 95%, and D is 88%. How many of you say A? Okay, so I heard somebody yell A, okay. How many of you say B? Okay, how many of you say C and D? Okay, 95%. Okay, see a lot of arms going up back there. Somebody's winning a lot, so that's good. Okay, so 95% of Gen Xers use Facebook. Okay, so quick question before we jump into the program. Multi-generational workforce trends, your guys' take. What are you guys seeing in terms of the trends that are currently impacting our industry, our workforce, as they relate to multiple generations working together. Can you guys give me any examples? The good, the bad, the ugly. Please don't name any names if they're in here right now. Go ahead.
Millennials that have been to college are now, especially the white millennials, are now trying to be a voice for ethnic groups.
It's true.
Trying to bring cultural diversity
Yeah.
more to.
The inclusiveness. Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you. Okay, anything else? Trends that you're seeing, or even something you're seeing in the workplace that has to do with working with different generations all in one spot. I'm sure some of you are thinking of it, but don't. Go ahead.
Offices now are no more private offices, but kind of expanding open areas.
Okay, expansion, open areas. Yep, yep. That's a good one. Yeah, go ahead.
The younger kids will change jobs for $5,000.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, you're spot on. Yeah, it's funny as it pertains to a statistic about that. I read a study. The average American tenure at one position at one company is 4.2 years, whereas millennials it's half of that. So you're spot on. We'll jump around in that sense. Anything else? Go ahead.
I would say use of technology.
Okay, great. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Younger generations are able to be working for the older.
A lot more comfortable with using technology. Okay, great, awesome. Anything else? Go ahead.
The millennials insist on more work-life balance and work much more remotely.
Okay, so more work-life balance and working much more remotely. Okay. Do you think it's just millennials, or Gen X and baby boomers are also participating in that as well?
I think that the baby boomers are working more remotely, but I think we've given up on the work-life balance.
Gotcha. Okay, great. Okay, cool. So we're going to start this off. I keep saying that, but I've got another thing that I want to run through. It's called the Generation Perception Exercise. Can I get a volunteer who who has good handwriting? We'll give you $2 too, if you can do that. Volunteer? Okay.
It was the money. It's been a tough year. Oh, I can't do orange though.
Oh, okay. We got-
Duck.
Oh,
I can do purple. You can do red.
okay. Okay. Why is there no green? Yeah, you can have the green. Yeah. It's money colored, right?
I paid 2 tuitions
Yeah,
there.
right.
You know.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to do the perception of each generation exercise, okay? With the help of, I'm sorry, I'm so bad. Andy, okay. Okay, so up at the top, can you write down baby boomers as a title? Yeah, you have way better handwriting than me. And then according to this publication that I have, because it varies from publication to publication, if you were born between the years of 1945 and 1963. So let's notate that for everybody too. Okay, now audience participation. Give us some perceptions of baby boomers that you're aware of.
Good looking.
Good looking? Okay, we'll write that down. Good looking. Okay. Somebody said old. Okay.
That was for me, he said.
Good.
Oh, well, for Connie. How about workaholic?
Workaholics. Okay, I like that one. Okay, workaholics. Okay, what else? Established. That's a good one. Okay. Wise. Exceptionally wise. Okay, what else? Loyal. That's a good one. You want to write golden down? No, I'm just kidding. What else? Still talk on the phone. Yeah, and they talk on the phone, right? Write in cursive. Okay. They can read in cursive. Don't look down. What else? What's that? Blue collar. Okay. Okay. Anything else? Baby. Yeah. Go ahead. High standards. Okay. Tell me more about that. High standards with what? Okay. Professionalism. Okay. Give me one more. Go ahead. Entrenched in their ways. Okay, that's good. And I saw a hand up over there too. Joy. Don't work on the weekend. They're not working on the weekend? Or they will work on the weekend? You think they don't work on the weekend? Okay. Yeah, I don't think they do either. So off on Saturdays and Sundays. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. My vote is Gen X did because of Queen, but yeah. Okay, cool. So that's good for this one. Can we tear that sheet off, please? Thank you. Okay, so next one we're going to write down is, got it? Thank you. We're going to do Gen X. And again, according to this publication, I didn't set these rules. If you're born between 1964 and 1979, you're considered a quote-unquote Gen X. Okay, so give us some perceptions about Gen X. How many of you are Gen Xers in here? Okay, so we got quite a bit. So tell us about yourselves. Hardworking, okay. Hardworking, okay. Good looking. You can't say good looking for all of them but millennials, though, okay. Okay, what else? What's that? Created good music, okay, and what was it? Adaptable, okay. I like that one, that was good too. Okay, so good music, adaptable, what else? Gen X. Go ahead. Emotionally intelligent, okay.
Like high EQ, is that?
Yeah, we can put that.
More tats than the boomers.
More tats than the boomers, that's true. Didn't you guys invent them or something?
More tax?
More
Seattle did.
tax or tats?
Tattoos.
Tattoos, okay, okay. We're like, I thought it was tattoos, but yeah, okay, so tattoos. Okay, what else? Okay, brought us a lot of modern technology, like what? Okay, cell phones, computers, okay. Anything else with Gen X? Not a very big list here. Do you guys ever wonder?
We're the forgotten generation.
Okay, so I'll give you the stat behind that. Do you know why it's called the forgotten generation? There's sandwiched between the boomers and millennials, right? Also a size component. So Gen X is about 1/3 the size of millennials. So that kind of give you an idea. And millennials just surpassed the baby boomer generation in terms of size. Okay, great. What was that? Flexible, okay. Flexible, adaptable. Awesome. Okay, let's cut this one, tear it. Thank you so much. Just one more. Appreciate your help. Okay, so let's write millennials on there.
Let's let one of them write the list.
I don't know how to write. Okay, so according to this publication, 1980 to 2000. So give us some perceptions about millennials. Be nice, but we don't have feelings, so be honest. Okay. Entitled. Deserving. Awesome. Somebody say awesome. They don't know how to write. Okay. But we know how to type. Okay. Text. Okay. So maybe electronic communication, right? Tech savvy. Okay. What else? Millennials. Inclusive. Okay. Inclusive. Participation trophies. So tell me more about participation trophies. What does that mean? Everybody's special. Everybody gets one. Okay. Okay. Okay, what else? Millennials. What was that? Most efficient. I like that one. Are you a millennial? Okay, cool. Okay, let's get two more. What else?
Relaxed work ethic.
Relaxed work ethic. Okay. So what does that mean?
Well, comparing back to boomers, there's a different way that people dress when they go to work,
Mhm.
and you can see that I would consider it degradate over time.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's a good point.
So relaxed, yeah.
More casual.
Yeah.
Okay, more casual work environment. Okay. What else?
Thin-skinned.
Thin-skinned. Okay. What do you mean by that?
Well, they take it more personal,
Okay.
more emotional.
More emotional. Okay. More sensitive. Okay.
Yeah, more sensitive.
More sensitive. Okay.
What do you mean by that?
Anything else? Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, David. Faster growth in business.
Faster growth.
Growth in business.
Like promotion growth?
Promotional growth.
Okay, promotional growth. So would you say impatient? Okay. Okay, any last one? Student loans. That's a big one, yep. Okay. Thank you so much. Let's give Andy a round of applause here. You can leave it on there. It's fine. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so let's review our list here that we put together collectively. Okay, so baby boomers. This is the perceptions that you guys gave us here. Somebody said old, workaholics, established, wise, loyal, still talk on the telephone, cursive, blue collar, high standards, professionalism, entrenched in their ways, off on weekends. Okay, would you, if you agree with at least one of these perceptions, would you raise your hand? Okay, so almost everybody. Okay, so let's pull this one up, Gen X. Okay, this is the list that you gave us, Gen X. Hardworking, adaptable, good music, high EQ, more tattoos, brought us modern tech, forgotten gen, and flexible. So would you all agree that there's at least one thing that one perception you agree with on that list? If so, raise your hand. Okay. Okay, so let's do this for millennials. Okay, so millennials, here's the perceptions that you gave us. We've got entitled, trophies, everyone's special. Okay, participation trophies, everyone is special. We have thin skin. We're deserving, can't write, can type, tech savvy, inclusive, most efficient, thank you back there, relaxed work ethic, environment, expect professional growth sooner, impatient, student loans, and optimistic. Okay, so he's already raising his hand. So if you agree with at least one of these perceptions on here, will you raise your hand? Okay. So what if I do this? So I crossed out millennials and I wrote Asian people on here. How does that make you feel? Not good. Why? Okay, a lot of negative comments on here. I do not believe this at all, right? But what I'm trying to show everybody here is that the perceptions that we bring, it's not okay to do it based on ethnicity, but we do it for age all the time when we talk about the generations. Okay, we just don't even realize it because we mask it behind saying, oh, they're a millennial, that's why, or they're a baby boomer, or they're a Gen X, that's why. Completely throw that out. So if there's a reset button hit, hopefully this is it, that it's wrong to have those perceptions based on generation, because it's discrimination basically against one's age. So keep that in mind. Again, I don't think that it's list for Asian people, but I'm just trying to show you in that sense, okay? So any questions on that exercise? How does that make me feel? I feel great. Okay. Okay, so what's in it for you today? So like I talked about, I'm not going to stand up here today and tell you should text millennials or Gen Z folks are more sensitive. Instead, we're going to get into a 3-part workshop to identify what is preventing us from multi-generational cohesion, what we can do to synergize that multi-generational team. To do that, we're going to get into part A, the problem, what's the root cause and why is this dangerous, why we do it, and some fun biology stuff. Part C, high-level organizational change strategies and specific exercises that you can actually incorporate in your daily activities. And then if you're here until the end, then I'm going to give you a prize. Not just the money part. I've got another prize for you too. Okay, fair enough? I'm out of time. Okay. So giving credit when it's due. I'm going to throw out a lot of stats at you guys. Okay. I'm not just making these up. I went and did all the research for you. So here's my list of citations. If you were to pick any of these books to pick up and read, I definitely recommend the middle one, Unfairly Labeled by Jessica Kriegel. Very good book in terms of kind of helping with expanding upon that, bridging that generational gap. Okay, so what do you guys think the root cause of what's causing the generational gap? What do you guys think is causing that? What's that? Stubbornness? Okay, tell me more about that. What do you mean by that? Okay. Okay, that's great. So she said stubborn. A lot of generations, not everybody, but a lot of the generations aren't having those open mind conversations. They kind of close off. You kind of silo out, and then you're not willing to adapt or change. Can we give her $1? Brittany, where'd you go? Oh, okay, cool. Awesome, thanks. Expectations? Okay, tell me more about that.
Well, when you're working together on a project, people work differently, and the workaholic baby boomer may expect the millennial to work all night and over the weekends like they do, or the stereotypes that they do, and so there's and then the millennial says, "Get a life, baby boomer. This is my job, not my life."
Got it.
And so those expectations clash, and it causes frustration on both sides.
Perfect. Okay. Great breakdown. Racking up the bucks. Okay, so let's jump into this. Okay, so what is a generational stereotype? Can somebody give me a definition or what they think their definition is? Okay, women should stay at home. Okay, that is a generational stereotype, definitely. What else? That's a good one. What else? Not women should stay at home, but it's a good definition, yeah. Men need to bring in all the money. That's another great generational stereotype, okay? So define generational. What does generational mean? Kind of talked about this a bit. In your words, what's a generation? What is generational? Now people are like, I'm afraid to answer anything because I've been thinking about it all wrong, right? Anybody? What's that? Span of time. Okay, so all the folks born within that span of time, generational. Okay, somebody said something over here?
Yeah, I just said 20 years stretch of time.
20-year stretch of time, okay, like we talked about over here. 1980 to 2000, born during that time, you're in that generation. Period of evolution. What do you mean by that? Okay, things evolve, people evolve. Are you talking like thousands of years, or are you talking like 10, 15, 20 years? Okay, more short period. Okay, that's good. We're actually going to talk about that a little bit later. So according to Webster, definition generational, relating to or characteristic of all people born and living about the same time regarded collectively. You guys hit that right on the head. Definition of label, stereotype, a widely held but fixed and oversimplified image or idea of a particular type of person or thing. Would you guys agree with those? Okay. Okay, do you guys think generational stereotypes are new? No. How long do you think they've been around? Since the beginning of time. Okay. Any examples on stuff that's been around since the beginning of time on generational stereotypes? Kids these days. Yep, that's that saying. So let me give you something from 2,500 years ago. Okay? This is from Socrates, right? He said, children no longer rose from their seats when an elder entered the room. They contradicted their parents, chattered before company, gobbled up the dainties at the table, and committed various offenses against Hellenic tastes, such as crossing their legs. The counts of the indictment are luxury, bad manners, contempt for authority, disrespect to elders, and a love for chatter in place of exercise. Okay, so this was happening 2,500 years ago, like you guys were talking about. Okay, so why is generational stereotyping dangerous? What do you guys think? Why is generational stereotyping dangerous? Underestimate, yeah, that's a good point. What else? Go ahead.
Or diminishes someone's who they really are.
Diminishes somewhat. Right, totally. Somebody said something over here? No? Missing out on a different perspective. Okay, that's good too. Is it illegal to stereotype? Not yet. Depends on the area. Depends on your employee. Okay. So, quick question, fun fact. What do you think the protected age class is federally? 60, 55, 55. Let's bring it down a little bit more. 50, 40. Yep. What do you think it is in Portland or Oregon in general? So if I'm an employee and I felt like I was discriminated against because of my age, I could be 19 years old and be protected in the state of Oregon for age discrimination. The protected age range is not 40 here, it's 18 and above. Okay, so something to think about. We're one of the only states, there's 2 states that do that. So just something to think about. That's why it's dangerous. Okay, so first complaints were filed by a female flight attendant back in 1960s. Still occurs today, but is less overt. How is it less overt?
They don't say it openly. They made up another reason why they're doing it.
Right. Okay, good point. Okay, recent Boston College Center of Retirement Research. Yeah, you should get money. Are we all out? Awesome. Thank you, Brady. So recent Boston College Center of Retirement Research found organizations were 40% more likely to ask a young person back for a second interview versus an applicant over the age of 50, okay? So a lot of that stuff had been going on and is still going on, unfortunately. The Age of Discrimination in Employment, ADEA, is a federal law that protects applicants, employees over the age of 39. We kind of talked about this if you're 40 and above. We talked about this, which age group is protected in Oregon. It's 18 and over. You can look it up. It's something else, something crazy, at least in my opinion. Generational labels hide age discrimination. So how do you guys think generational labels could hide age discrimination? Anybody? Go ahead.
A bunch of resumes and you're looking at them, somebody's over a certain age, you could just say,
Okay. So what would you see on a resume that would give away age?
they have credentials and I went to high school,
Yeah.
such and such time,
When I graduated. Yep.
something about their experience.
Okay. Good. Good one. Okay. Go ahead.
By looking at that, you could say that somebody's either underqualified or overqualified.
Okay. Tell me more about that. What do you mean?
Even if the resume's short, even if it doesn't have dates on it, more than likely you might be able to tell what their experience has been.
Got it.
You might not give them a chance, or vice versa.
They've got too
They
much.
have a lot of experience,
Okay. I gotcha.
and you might not. Happens too.
Got it. Okay.
People just don't figure that they can pay them.
You guys ever seen some of those ads or heard about those ads and completely wrong and employers shouldn't do this where they say, hey, looking to hire recent college graduates? Do you think there's an age discrimination issue there? I saw a hand over here.
I was just going to say, when a resume is 5 pages long, then you have to be 80 years old in order to do it all.
Yeah, yeah.
Without the date.
True, true. Mine is 5 pages and I have pictures on 2, 3, 4, and 5. So, no, I'm just kidding. I don't have pictures. Pictures of stuff. Okay. Okay, so let me give you some examples of labels that hide age discrimination. And we've all read them, and some of us have written them, of which I'm guilty of. So how about this? 5 tips on how to manage millennials. 3 reasons millennials are getting fired. Okay? Now let's shift this over. 5 tips on how to manage 60-year-olds. 3 reasons 60-year-olds are getting fired. Okay? Do you think that's okay to do? Why?
Because the age is stated in there.
Okay. What about for millennials?
Because it's not stated, they kind of get away with it.
Okay. What if I said 3 reasons 19-year-olds are getting fired?
You're right back to where you started.
Okay. So something to think about. Again, all the time you'll see, hey, 10 tips on how to retain millennials or recruit millennials, things like that. It's, again, just a buffer to hide that age component. Okay, part B. If it's so dangerous, why are we doing it? So, Homo erectus. Anybody know what Homo erectus was? That humanoid species, the first, stood up. Yeah, exactly, Homo erectus. So, 2 million years ago, this was going on. Okay, so why do you think 2 million years ago we were generalizing and stereotyping when we were hanging out with Homo erectus?
It's the nature of human beings
Okay? It's the nature of human beings to compare. Okay? I like that. Tell me more about it. Go ahead.
Probably because the young ones didn't know to watch out for the tiger.
Okay?
And the old one said tiger, run away.
Okay? Okay, good. Yeah. No, you're spot on 100%. So if we did not tie meaning to the unknown, do you think we would live very long? I'll give you an example, okay? Let's say you're a caveman or a cavewoman, right? And you're hanging out outside and you see this dark cave, right? But you think that there's some sort of food source in there, right? And you don't tie two and two together that there could be also a lion in there hiding, right? You just walk in there, okay? And then you've got the other caveman or cavewoman who sees that dark cave, right? And then they tie, they're generalizing, they're saying, oh, dark cave, that's an unknown, that's scary, I should probably stay away from that. Do you think they're generalizing in that sense about those dark caves as a survival mechanism? Okay, so that's what we're doing. So we're going to dig into that a little bit more. So labeling, generalizing, stereotyping were essential for survival. We talked about that. So what is causing stereotyping? So it's the brain. Let's talk about predictions into convictions, the ladder of inference, and in-group and out-group dynamics. These are the things going on in your brain that are actually causing it, and we can kind of break this down and label it, tell you what's going on. So predictions into convictions. Anybody ever heard this saying? Nobody? Okay. Brain gathers information, converts the information into patterns, and stores the pattern as memory. Okay, step one. Memories become foundation of beliefs that guide predictions for the future. Pattern predictions initiate a pleasure trigger within the brain. Example, okay? Let's say if I was hosting this workshop and somebody dressed up as a firefighter walked into this room and stood there, what would you guys start thinking about? There's a fire going on. Okay, what would you look at if you're staring at the person? Their expression, okay? Their clothes, right? Body language. You think that you would check to see if they were older, younger, male, female, hair color. You probably look at all that stuff. Not saying you judge it, but you would look at it. But it's important to know that we need to tie that person, our perception, as there's a fire going on, right? So we're taking that perception and turning it into a conviction to say, hey, there's a problem, we need to get out. So we all just do it subconsciously, and it happens naturally. So if anybody ever says, I never discriminate, I don't generalize, I never stereotype, they're lying, because we all do it to a degree. Okay, so somebody walked in the room right now, use the firefighter example, we look at the clothes, the way they stand, their hair, their gender, skin color, age group. Okay, then based upon our experiences, our brain would go into prediction mode due to the experiences from the past regarding the same patterns. Okay, so I've seen a firefighter before, I know what they look like. I know what the road flagger person looks like when they wear that vest. I know what a soccer player looks like. If I see somebody, at the store and they're wearing soccer stuff, they probably are a soccer player. Okay, we do it all subconsciously. Okay, the ladder of inference. This is one of my favorite ones. It's a 7-step process that impacts the focus of an individual based upon beliefs. So I'm going to tell you guys a story about my dad. His name is Jim, and he lives up in Washington, and he's an electrician. And my mom and dad live over in Bremerton, Washington. How many of you heard of Bremerton, Washington, Silverdale? Okay. Anybody live over there? No? Okay, no friends? Okay, so my dad, he was telling me a story. We were there for Father's Day brunch, and he was telling me a story. And he said, Jesse, he's an electrician, he works over the shipyard. They call me the legend at work. I said, why do they call you the legend? And he said, because I get away with whatever I want, and everybody else says, hey, you're like a legend around here. So then he, was dubbed the name the legend. And I said, well, what makes you so legendary in that sense? And he says, I hate computers, I hate smartphones, I have an email, but I don't know how to use it. And I'm the legend because when they emails out, they print it for me and they hand it to me each and every single time. So I was like, oh, okay. And he said, and all you younger people with your phones and stuff, you're always stuck on your emails. So we're going to use him as the example as we walk through this because we all do this. And he doesn't know I'm talking about him right now. So that's a picture of us. To your guys' right is my dad. My sister was graduating from university, and then my mom and my uncle. Okay. So step one, Jim, my dad, is promoted into a new role and notices that he works with a lot of millennials. Okay, we're going to break down this ladder of inference here. Okay, secondly, he starts to look around. He's selecting data all week. He notices that no one in the department that he works in is actually talking to one another and speaking. Okay, They only email and text message each other, okay? How many of you are familiar with that or have seen that before, okay? So Jim adds meaning. My dad adds meaning. He applies values, cultures to selected data, believes verbal communication is essential for bonding and better conversation. Okay, would a lot of you agree that? Like you need to verbally talk to have a better bond than over email or text message? Then he makes an assumption. He assumes millennials do not have deep-rooted conversations and experience difficulties bonding with others. Okay, could you see how he's doing that? Draws a conclusion. Since he sees his coworkers, quote unquote, wired in each and every day, he comes to the conclusion that millennials can't communicate verbally and only have superficial bonds. Okay, see where this is going? Then he adopts this belief that millennials are always glued to technology, can't formulate human bonds, and are unable to have in-depth verbal conversations on deeper topics, then completely discounts all millennials in terms of verbal conversations. And that's all he sees. Like if there's a millennial around with a phone, he's like, hey, look, another millennial on the phone. You could have a millennial doing public speaking and he wouldn't even put two and two together because he's already discounted it off in that sense. And then around the water cooler, he takes action. He speaks with his friends, right, who are also Gen X, baby boomers, and colleagues about how all the millennials he works with are always glued to their computers, never actually talk with one another. They're always wired in, okay? So you can see how this process works. And then from then on out, it's just set in his brain in that sense. So any questions on the ladder of inference and what our brain does, okay? Would you guys all agree for the most part that you have seen this pattern happen before?
Yes.
Okay.
With other things.
All those things, okay?
With other things too.
Oh, with other things, like what?
Well, in other words, you know, you have two people. One of them sees a tiger cub and plays with it, has a great experience. Another one gets chased by a full-grown tiger.
Mm.
In other words, you just take that ladder of inference. The next time one of them sees a tiger, he's going to react very differently than the other one.
Right, right.
Because of their experience.
Yeah,
And
that's a
the
very good
brain
point.
will create shortcuts from
Right,
that experience.
right. That's a good point. It's because the brain doesn't like that ambiguity, okay? Ambiguity, right? Can't even say it, okay? You ever seen like a cat, like if you bring a cat into the house, right, for the first time, it runs around and explores every single crevice and crack in the home, okay? Because it wants to know. It doesn't like the unknown. It needs to know what's going on. It's the same thing with us.
Yeah, but is Jim's inference because they're not communicating with him at all?
What do you think?
No, they're just communicating differently, and he feels like he's outside of it.
But not with him.
Yeah, but not with him.
I wonder if that added to that.
It could be. It is probably more so like, okay, well, if you can't text message me, then, you know, what's the point in trying to even, you know, conversate, you know? It's kind of like the same thing where people nowadays, they'll text you or email you to set up a call time, and they won't even pick up the phone and call you because nobody likes to do the email, voicemail tag, you know, on that. It's more like, you know, they'll see efficiency, whereas he sees like, you can't bond, you can't talk to people, you can't connect in that sense, you know, for it. So it's not rejection. It's more rejection from his side. Somebody pointed it out earlier, where it's like, hey, I'm used to my ways. I don't want to, you know, bridge that gap and figure out, you know, what I need to adjust personally to join them and to be able to communicate with them. Even though his loving children bought him an iPhone and even pay for the bill every month just so he could have it, and even made a Facebook account for him, and even threatened him that we would post inappropriate stuff on his Facebook account if he didn't start monitoring it. Okay. So last part about the brain, in-group and out-group dynamics. Okay, this also happens all the time. And I'll give you an example of like when this happens in your teenage years even. Okay, so in the 1970s, phrase in-group and out-group were formed to explain social identity, us versus them mentality, okay, kind of that team mentality. Three-step process, social categorization, social identification, and social comparison. Okay, the categorization component, categorize things on how we understand them, which again removes that ambiguity and makes us uncomfortable. Okay, so I'll give you that example. So high school. Okay, you're in high school, right? People are like, that's the jocks, that's the nerds, that's the car people, that's the cheerleaders, right? You guys all remember that going on? Okay, this is why we were doing it in high school. Okay, you start forming those little cliques. Okay, how many of you were in one of those cliques of whatever sort or knew somebody who was? Okay, I'm sure probably almost everybody, right? There's some examples: preppy, cowboy, skater, rich. Okay, again, it's those cliques. Social comparison, compare our group to the other group, build self-esteem, members in the in-group see themselves as better in comparison to other groups. So like sports teams, right? Or people could say, hey, CCIM is better than IREM, right? As an example or something like that, for it, it's that same exact thing. So recap of this biology stuff. So what is your brain doing? So 2009, Dr. David Rock, director of Leadership Institute and co-editor of the Neuro Leadership Journal, wrote out a concept that the brain craves certainty and avoids uncertainty when it's at all possible. Anybody ever heard of or have the experience of feeling, I've just got a bad gut feeling about it, right? So this is not, it doesn't feel good, okay? That's when you're unsure, okay? But if you're sure and you want to make a decision and execute it, then you don't have that same feeling. You don't have that same gut feeling that things are bad. Okay, biology, hormonal secretions were measured and suggested that the brain sees uncertainty as a threat. Going back to the conversation about the caveman example, okay? If you're uncertain about what's going on, right, because there could be a line in there, that would eat you in that sense, your brain's going to say, hey, this is probably not a good thing, right? It's going to make you not feel as comfortable versus it being well lit. The threat then triggers an alert response in the limbic system. Anybody know where the limbic system is? Okay, where within the brain? Okay.
Like near the stem.
Yep. So it's your lizard brain, okay? So the stem and then limbic is right on top of that. So it's your basic primary or primal controls instincts, mood, common emotions, okay? So this is ingrained into us, like I talked about, going 2 million years back. The greater the ambiguity, okay? How many times am I going to have this word in here? Of any decision-making process, the greater the threat, the lower the ambiguity, right? Level provides greater sensation of reward. Again, that's that thing. It's like, okay, if I'm on the fence, I'm not sure if I want to make the decision. I've got that knot in my stomach. It doesn't feel good, or you're up all night thinking about it, or you keep going back and forth versus being sure about it. Brain attempts to identify the black and white in a gray world. We're learning to embrace the gray on that side. Okay, so last part of the workshop here. How am I on time? Okay, so bridging the multi-generational gap. So we've kind of talked about the how, the why we're doing it, what we're doing, the problems, the history, the root. Let's talk about bridging the generations and some of the things that we can do. Like I said, I didn't want to make this entire presentation about, saying you should text message millennials or Gen Z's, more sensitive. I wanted to give you the why and the how so you understand what was going on, and then give you the tools and tips on things that you could actually implement with it. Okay, so 3-part. Step 1, we're going to get a better understanding of the age versus generation. Step 2, implementing organizational change strategies. And then 3, give you specific exercises that you can incorporate in your day-to-day activities. Okay, understanding age versus generation. Stereotyping, kind of talked about this. Stereotyping in general is inappropriate within corporate America. By law, among many other factors, it's illegal to discriminate based upon race, gender, and nationality, also with age, like we talked about. It is, however, legal to stereotype via generation, as long as we're not talking about age, okay? So that's still not illegal yet, but it's getting there, and it's something that all of you in this room are going to uncover and have a better idea. Okay, so generations are formed by groups facing similar life-changing events, such as wars, economic downturns, or music styles. So what events impacted the way baby boomers are? Vietnam War, okay, good. What else? Kennedy assassination, okay, good. What else?
The Great Depression.
Depression, okay, Great Depression, okay, good. What else? Space program, okay. What about Gen X? What impacted Gen X? Nobody knows. The television? Okay, oh, MTV, yeah. Cable, okay, good. What else? Macintosh, okay, good. What else? Computers? The Gulf War, yeah. Cold War. Okay, 9/11, yeah. Probably more millennial for Gen X, but personal computers, yeah. Cell phones that were like the size of a briefcase, right? Okay, what about millennials? What impacted millennials? Y2K, somebody mentioned 9/11, reality TV, right? Okay. Baby boomers, baby boomer parents, social media, right? Okay, so different events are happening. Do you think 2009 and that economic downturn we have in the US has impacted millennials as to whether or not they want to buy homes? Yes. Okay, yeah, see, so stuff like, because before we grew up knowing, or hearing, you can never lose money on a home investment. It's always the best investment. Go buy a house, right? Best thing to do, blah, 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 right? Then 2009 happened, and now everybody's renting, right? Okay, so age, on the other hand, is a chronological marker or number. Okay, so we talked about generations, and then we're going to talk about age. The fact is that many life-changing events occur as a person ages, confers that generational attributes can vary from person to person regardless of age. Okay, so would you say that different generations can have different attributes? The people within different generations can have different attributes based on the different events, and they're not all holistically impacting the same group, right? Okay, so consider this. If a generation were truly defined by the historical and cultural circumstances in which its members were reared, then traits would remain the same as they age. This is a really cool example. So in 2014, the Nielsen Company, a leading market research firm, polled millennials and baby boomers, asking them what was the most defining characteristics of the generation, kind of like what we did earlier. Millennials ranked high in technology use, okay, we said that, and music and pop culture, and baby boomers rated high in work ethic. Okay, we kind of did that similarly, right? Would you guys agree with those? Okay. So here's a question for you. If you go back to when the baby boomers were in their 20s, this was the 1960s when it was peace, love, and rock and roll. Do you think they were very work ethic related? No? Not really, okay. Do you think they liked technology then? Like, what was the technology of the time then? Like the 8-track? Cassette tape, right? Okay. Automatic transmission, okay. So baby boomers were then tech-driven and rebel-driven and music-driven, right? And completely different than what we categorize them or stereotype them as today. So those attributes can change over time is the point that I'm trying to make with that. So think when people say work ethic as it pertains to baby boomers or music or cultural revolution and even technology, when televisions, that's what I was looking for, hi-fi sound systems. What are hi-fi sound systems? I don't even know. Anybody? High fidelity, okay. Stereo. Is that like the boombox? Versus mono. Oh, multiple oh, okay, gotcha. Multiple speakers versus one. Left, right. See, that's technology. Or even when the train came out, right? That was way before baby boomers, right? But it was still technology, right? Okay, so step 2, implement 5 organizational change strategies. So I'm going to give you some high-level organizational change strategies that you can implement moving forward. So create a company culture of mutual respect and trust, okay? So in my dad's position, if they have mutual respect and trust, even though they have different communication preferences, they could still function together in that sense, right? They're not just siloing themselves off and trying to prevent, bridging that gap so they can work together with each other. So appreciate what each generation or person brings to the table. Okay, I think most of us know that. Anybody ever heard of reverse mentoring before? No? Have you? Do you know what it is?
Yeah, so it would be having somebody who's just graduated from college actually mentor Mark on how to use technology or social media or something like that.
Okay, yeah, exactly. So somebody comes in, and instead of just looking at them like, hey, I need to take all the information and train them on everything, then you're saying, hey, millennial, or hey, 24-year-old, or hey, Bobby, whatever your name is, why don't you tell me how to use Twitter better so we can implement this into our business platform, something like that, reverse mentoring. So something really important. So keep your team members engaged and collaborative. Everybody wants and needs to feel valued regardless of their generation, right? Implement and train the right technology. Why is it important to not only just implement but also train programs, systems?
If you don't train people, they're not going to make the technology go.
Right.
It's going to be a complete disaster.
Exactly. So have you guys ever been around in a company, working in a company where they're like, hey, let's try this new program out. They just roll it out. Nobody knows how to use it. And then everybody is like, oh, here we go again, right? Dang technology, right? Same thing. So that training component is really important. Businesses must consider creative use of new technology to foster productivity. So do you guys think that the rate of technology is changing faster now than it was 10 years ago, or slower? Okay, why is it changing faster now than 10 years ago? Okay, focus on technology, right?
More money in tech, too.
More money in technology.
Oh, yeah, I
So-
think a lot more resources are going into it than before.
Okay,
And plus, with the internet and the connection of different people, the rate of knowledge is expanding at a much faster pace
Okay.
than it was before.
exponentially, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
and the collaboration is facilitated more because of it as well.
okay, good.
Is that knowledge or just plain information?
It is both data, everything. So here's an important item to note. So in the last 2 years, okay, from now 2 years back, there's been more data generated and stored electronically than all the other years forever since computers came out combined. That's how fast it's going, and that's what's causing that exponential growth. Okay, so real important to stay on top of the right type of technology. Because what happens if you don't? What's happening in taxi cabs? Gone. They're done, right? Basically overnight. Okay, so part 2 of this, take advantage of positivity. Skills are taught while attitude is inherent. Okay, I'm sure everybody could kind of agree on that we could teach skills, but if somebody has a bad attitude, you can't really train that and so far. How many of you in your companies roll out soft skills training? Nobody? What's that? Okay, how many of you roll out technical training at your companies? Okay, like here's the user guide, here's the book, right? Okay, what is soft skills training? Somebody answer that for me?
Sales training.
Okay, sales training, okay, good.
How you interact with one another.
How you interact with one another, communication, okay? Go ahead.
I was just going to say being able to have conversations with people,
Okay,
understand how their perception of the how they're feeling,
okay,
to respond.
okay, good. How they're feeling, emotional intelligence, negotiation, okay? So why is it companies don't roll that stuff out? It's expensive. Do you think it's easier or harder to measure ROI on soft skills training than it is technical training? Probably pretty difficult, huh? But if you've got 5 different generations within your organization that you're working with, do you think that's going to be problematic if there's no soft skills training? Okay, if you're not self-aware. How many of you have done the Myers-Briggs analysis before? Okay. What were your Myers-Briggs preferences? You guys remember? Yes. Hey, I'm an ESTJ too. Yeah. Like we're like heartless. And that's why it helped give me vision as to why like I've got issues connecting with people who have feelings, right? Because I don't have feelings. I'm a robot, you know. So definitely good stuff. Self-awareness is crucial. Okay, so create mentoring opportunities and partnerships. Talked about reverse mentoring as well. Okay, last section. So let's incorporate 5 day-to-day reset exercises kind of moving forward. This is stuff you could start today. So avoid stereotyping. Millennials want their products from Amazon immediately. Don't you think Gen X would want their products from Amazon immediately as well too? So when we say, oh, millennials want this like yesterday, Gen X would also want it yesterday if they could get it too. It's not like they're going to be more patient. Like, oh, okay, I'll wait an extra week past the millennial in that sense, right? Open communication and full transparency. Everyone should be given the opportunity to present creative thoughts, ideas, complaints, and concerns. Respect preferred work styles and expectations of work-life balance. So a couple of you mentioned work-life balance earlier. A couple of you mentioned the whole traditional offices, cubicles, being taken away in replacement for like an open workspace and where the direction's going with that. So those are also important things to keep in mind in terms of how your workspace is structured and everything with that.
There's no consensus. I mean, there's as many articles one direction as there's another direction. How do you create that? How does that even work? There's no consensus in the marketplace on what is work style that works.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's a very good point. I think it's something that if whatever direction your company decides to go, that there is training and sensitivity awareness to it, because everybody's going to respond differently. And somebody who's accustomed to having their own office where they could shut their door and be on a phone call, versus somebody who's not accustomed to having that, where they have to step out and be on their cell phone, it's going to be completely impactful in both sides. We, at a company I was at many years ago, we rolled out what's called hoteling. Anybody ever heard of hoteling? Where you don't really have your own permanent desk. It's like you're hoteling. It's like you're there for the day, and those disasters struck for people who were accustomed to having a desk. So we had to roll out training to say, hey, this is what's going on. Here's the rules with it. Here's the benefits of it. Let's tie in some remote work opportunities too, where you can work from home, so we can kind of compromise those types of things. But reaching out to everybody, and getting their preferences and getting their feedback and input on how you can improve it, is definitely important too. Good question. So every person has their own preferences, regardless of their age, generation. These preferences will change over time. Okay, a couple more tools. Adjust your communication style. So not all text messages, not all emails, not all verbal communication like my dad, the legend. A blended style of communication is most effective for all generations. Create a cohesion committee with varied viewpoints that can enhance best practices in a collective manner. So if your company's not doing a soft skills training of any sort, then you guys probably should, if you've got the resources, put a committee together so you can get those thoughts from different perspectives, so you guys can roll stuff out collectively rather than just one baby boomer or one millennial making all the decisions for stuff, rolling things out. If a management opportunity appears in the US, who's most likely to step into that role? Which generation? Gen X? The next? Which generation, though, you think? Do you think it's baby boomers more likely to step into a manager role if one opens up today? Gen X or millennials? Millennials, yeah. No, all the Gen Xers are already in all the manager roles. But all the baby boomers, on average, 10,000 baby boomers in the US either retire or hit retirement age every single day. 10,000. So Gen X is already in the spots, and all these open positions are open, so millennials are just flooding the manager spots too. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys a gift, because rather than me standing up here and writing, and just basically just saying, text message millennials and, teleconference is best, I've got this ebook. I didn't write it. It's something that's a free resource, but I can give it to the CCIM folks that can roll it out. It gives you like 55 different specific exercises and things that you can implement to help kind of bridge that collaboration in terms of your multi-generational team in that sense. Okay, so key takeaways from our workshop. So we explored the root meaning of generational awareness, identified the importance of generational awareness, isolated the dangers of generational stereotypes, labeling, hit the generational awareness reset button, provided high-level strategies for organizational change, acquired specific examples of day-to-day actions one can facilitate to help bridge the generational gap, and like I said, giving you access to that ebook. Are there any questions on anything that we talked about today? Nothing? Okay, so I'm going to leave you guys with this. Anybody ever heard this statement, how do you impact 1 billion people? All the time? One person at a time, okay? That's a good one. I didn't know that one, okay? So winner, yeah, right? So how do you impact 1 billion people? So my ask for you all is if you glean something from this workshop, number one, tell the CCIM folks so I can keep my volunteer job. And number two, what you should do is you should share something that you learned with somebody else, okay? And I ask that, and sometimes people will respond with, well, there's like 7.2 billion people, why am I going to go around, telling people it doesn't make that much of a difference? But it does make a difference because we are all basically in a big system, and we're all a node, right, in a network. And to break down this formula on how you're going to impact 1 billion people is within your lifetime, you're going to know at least 1,000 people well enough to have an impact on them, okay? And then those 1,000 people are going to know another 1,000 people well enough to at least have an impact on them. So you're actually one person away from impacting 1 million and 2 people away from impacting 1 billion, okay? So that's how the math works in that sense. So what that means is everything that you decide, that you do, that you choose is the right thing to do. It's a little bit better than what you think. Everything you decide to do wrong is a little bit worse than what you think because it goes out and impacts others. So keep that in mind when you're sharing that. Thank you.